Good evening, folks. Felix Lebetsky here, diving deeper into Harlan Ellison's Shatterday. But first, before we begin tonight's nightmare, quick word from our sponsor. Roll it.
Hey folks, tired of those pesky bugs ruining your picnic? Grab Zombie Gone Bug Spray, the powerful formula that keeps pests gone for good. One quick spritz and their history.
Safe for the whole family. Even the little ones
Love that fresh, clean feeling.
Zombie Gone.
Pests? What pests?
Wait, what's that crawling? Easy now, still working, right? Just a few more bugs.
No, they're coming back! Bigger! Zombie Gone fights them no matter what. Oh God, they're everywhere. Help! Cut the...
Zombie Gone. That's gone for good. Even the undead can't resist.
Okay, that's not what we ordered. Zombie Gone apparently works a little too well. I think the zombies are now sponsoring us. Fantastic. Alright, let's pretend that didn't happen and jump straight into tonight's story. Settle in. It's about to get darker. After the paranoia punch of Shatterday, and the quiet dread of Count the Clock, let's switch gears to something clever and twisty. Shoppe Keeper. Ever wonder about those pop-up magic shops and stories? The ones that sell exactly what you need, then disappear? Ellison did, and he built a whole sci-fi universe around it. These aren't wizards, they're future humans fighting entropy by trading time across history. Our shopkeeper's an artist named Lane, grinding to revive his lost love. But art and survival don't always mix easy. It's trope, deconstructing, romantic, philosophical, with that Ellison edge. Kinda echoes King's Needful Things shopkeeper deals, but this one's pure speculative genius. Buckle up for wonders, twists, and gut check on what we trade. Let's open shop. I often wonder what the vintners buy, one half so precious as the goods they sell. Stanza LXXXV, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Fuck that up. A pale, short young man wearing filthy blue jeans and goat roper boots worn away at the heels came shuffling down jam-shied Avenue. As he passed the narrow arcade alleyway, the rusty creaking of a sign hung on chains caught his attention. He stared at the sign with eyes that were just the slightest bit crossed and glazed. The sign proclaimed Shop of Wonders, and beneath those words in curly-cued but extremely readable Islamic calligraphy, Your Heart's Desire. Only 5 feet, 2 inches tall, the young man paused at the mouth of the alley, stared at the swinging sign for a moment, ran a hand with dirty nails through his long hair, then turned in. The shop was tiny, with leaded-paned windows, dusty and fly-specked. He could not see inside, but there was a dim and golden light shining through the murkiness of the glass. The door handle was a brass lizard with a forked tongue. The young man put his hand on the brass and it was warm. He opened the door, which opened easily, and he went inside. The shop seemed to stretch on before him indefinitely. It defied dimensional description, like an Escher etching. Such a narrow shop could not possibly be so wide, and so deep, and so high. The frontage of the shop on the alley had seemed only 20 feet across, but here inside it was easily 10 times as wide. The cathedral ceiling hung far away above him in dismal shadows, beamed and sloping, smelling faintly of mildew and sandalwood and tallow. The light that had seen strained through the obscured glass of the windows was a mere glow, trembling through the murky interior from a distance so far in the rear of the shop that it was no more than a suggestion of light. The shop was jammed with goods, filled with goods, odd goods. hobby horses with peculiarly mad expressions in their eyes, with foam-flecked lips. Rows and rows of amphors, tightly stoppered and each marked with indecipherable inscriptions, written with felt-tip pens. Cases of amulets and tokens, such as some Egyptian-looking, some contemporary, and clearly the products of communes. Puppets living hung on long wires from the rafters above, a community of brittle, brightly painted figures, all with broken necks, shelves filled with enemies, a stack of abacuses, a wall of clocks from all periods, some with 9 or 56 divisions of time, bookcases filled with grimoires, day books, horn books, arcane thesauri, enchiridae, illuminated manuscripts, diaries, palimpsest, incunabula, claviculae, peruga, ana, and epilegomena. I think he's just making shit up at this point. Incan icons, glass files within which emboli floated, turning slowly in a tideless tide. In one corner, an enormously freestanding antique mirror with chased brass fitting. Another land, dark and distressing, could be seen in the mirror. Showcases containing plastic doggy vomit and ice cubes with cockroaches in them, of course. Whoopee cushions, meteorites, thousands of boxes, all sizes, stacked one atop another. Because Lord knows you got all this other fantastical shit. You gotta have the whoopee cushions and the doggy vomit and the ice cubes and cockroaches. Of course. Golden balls of all sides. A butcher's paper roller screwed to one wall, holding a large roll of gold foil. Bugles. In one showcase, a complete set of English vintage automobile cigarette packet cards. 50 to the set. With 136 duplicates of card number 26, the number 25 Vauxhall. Orisis. Embroiders of gold and silver lace, tossed willy-nilly over a Rampton chair. Bolts of Padosori. On a Duncan Fife table lay a folio of Ottawa Rimas, a shelf containing tins of tennis balls, oil lamps of the sort Aladdin rubbed to produce his genie. Dangling from a hook on the wall, an uncountable number of fishhooks, with unnamable things still snagged thereon. Hanging over an arched doorway in the side wall, a gonfalon upon which was emblazoned a booted foot crushing a 5-headed serpent, one of whose head was arched back around with fangs embedded in the heel of the foot. Stoppered extra thick glass bottles of vitriol, blue, green, and white. Shit no one will ever buy and is just out here for show. Tubes of bismuth. No, he didn't say that. Clothing racks of hair shirts, Liberians, hauberks, and herringbone suits. Potted flea bane. Well, that's sure what it feels like. Dolls with quarter melon slices bitten out of their heads. Several dozen small cases containing dancing mice, dyed in rainbow hues. The glass-fronted cabinet, originally intended to hold dental equipment, jammed full of severed paws, monkey, civet, fox, lynx, bear, and others, several with the claws extended, one that looked as though it had been lopped off at a yeti. Filters labeled love potion, hexadrons, tombs on epigraphy, all with unreadable titles, of course. Carboshes coiled on hooks on the wall, beakers bearing the label phlogiston. A complete run of amazing stories dated from April 1926 to December 2009, so still out of date. More grimoires, some in paperback editions, a plethora of keys, of all kinds, sizes, shapes, and intricities. Calling horns, some as simple as a shofar, others as pupiliform as a cornucopia. Scruples in breath jars, and big umbilically, umbilically joined oxymoron. Silver seashells that, when placed next to the ear, as the short young man did, reproduced not the sound of the sea, but the sound of the wind between the stars. Drink-wrapped packages of miniature Hydra heads, a 30-foot-high glass-fronted cabinet that seemed to contain model toy soldiers, until the young man looked closer and saw that the models were not metal at all, but seemed to be miniaturized human beings, frozen and solidified in the moment of combat. Oh, there is a person here! Ugh. The Battle of Ardennes, Balaclava, Visigoths against Huns, Rough Riders against Villa, Luftwaffe and Wolf legions at Stalingrad, the Battle of Little Bighorn, Midway, Chosen Reservoir, the 100 Spartans at the Hot Gates against Xerxes' millions, the French Foreign Legion at Dien Phu, Spartacus and his gladiator army versus the Roman Imperial Legion, each soldier perfect, down to the expression of utter horror as he was whisked off to the battlefield, drunk and consecrated, polished for the true land. A fragment of Christ's molar in the wafer. Stigmata kits. Packets of dried granny claw. Eyes of new. Toes of frogs. Spiderweb pulses. Transmigration threads on huge spools bearing the seal of Solomon on each. Cryogenically frozen pixies, nixies, neads, and dryads. Pickled krakens, tentacles. Fire-breathing salamanders and asbestos cages. Disintegrator pistols. Saintly relics, fingers, tibi, fibulae, eyeballs. And everywhere the young man looked, in every nook and crevice, there was rubbish, junk, litter, rags, odds and ends, trash, obscurings, tears, waste, rubble, debris, and dregs. And I could have just summed that last 2 pages up in just that one paragraph alone. My God. Yeah, I hate whenever they do this. Just give us a brief description and move on, folks. He was deep in a corner, examining what seemed to be 9mm artillery shells made of sterling silver, when a voice from behind finally came up and said, "Those are intended for use in slaying were dinosaurs. Only been one call for them. Chap who swore his Viker changed into a killer Stegosaurus at the full moon. Unlikely, but you never know. Try to keep up full stock, you know." The young man turned around looking for the speaker, but saw only a life-size, eclectically dressed figure leaning rather precariously against the wall. "Not me," the voice said. "That's St. Thomas Aquinas." The young man looked amazed. "Let you have him cheap," the voice went on. "Not much call for Aquinas these days. Not since his proofs were disproved. Have to fix those knee joints." He kept leaning like a kangaroo with a broken tail. The young man with the filthy caked hair and the ever so slightly cross-eyed look was suddenly frightened. He could not see the person speaking. It sounded, at first, as if it were an old man with an English accent. But the second time the mysterious voice spoke, it was a much younger man, with the accent diminished. He came out of the corner and stood in the open air just inside the door. He looked behind him through one of the dusty windows. Just outside, in the arcade alley, there was a heavy fog. A roiling gray suit that seemed to be lit from moment to moment by flashes of lightning. His fear grew. He had read about places like this in fantasy stories. It was certainly one of those shops. "Over here, young feller," said the voice, now that of a 70-year-old New England shopkeeper. "Over here, under the beaded lamp." And a beaded lamp in the rear of the shop clicked on. There was an old man sitting in a rocking chair under the lamp. The young man could just make him out. It was that far away. He turned and tried the doorknob. It wouldn't turn. He pulled at the door, but it wouldn't budge. From outside the shop came the sounds of great beasts prowling, the thundering machines, the death and horror. He turned and stared down the length of the shop at the old man, who rocked slowly and waited. From outside came a thunderous explosion. Magnesium flare brilliance illuminated the entire shop for an instant. revealing merchandise that made the young man's blood run cold. In the moment of chill white light, the face of the old man seemed to run and bubble and change. First there was the face of a beautiful woman, then the face of a Congolese Songhay mask, then the face of a robot without nose or mouth, then the face of an ancient god, perhaps Cernunnos of the Gauls. Then the moment of cold light was gone, and it was the old man once more, nothing but an old man once again. Don't mind the screams and shouts out there, son, the old man said. Just an idea of the management to discourage walkout. Keeps people browsing till the storm's over. The young man didn't want to, but he suddenly found himself walking toward the rear of the shop, toward the old man in the rocking chair. He tried to make his feet stop moving, but they placed themselves one in front of the other, and he kept walking. But no matter how long he walked, the young man realized he was drawing no closer to the figure in the rocker. He walked and walked down among the fossilized remains of Jabberwocks and Epiphysis and broken reel-to-reel tape recorders until his ankles began to blaze with pain from the walking, as if he'd been striding uphill on a 30-degree slope. He found he was able to stop walking, sat down on a three-legged stool to rest. The old man said, "That's a nice item, that one. Belonged to William Rufus, the incarnate king. Had a nasty dust-up with the Lady of the Lake, he did. Something silly about a macaroni song, I believe, or maybe it had a louder climax. Can't recall. Something like that. Let it go cheap if you're interested. Sitting on it's guaranteed to cure constipation instantly." The grubby young man leaped off the stool, the old man chuckling in a very friendly key. "Well, hell, kid, come on over. I'll stop playing around with you." The young man started walking. He was able to approach the old man. In a few moments he was standing beside him. "Now, what can I do for you?" The young man stared at him with faintly glazed eyes lit by a peculiar light. Just stared. He didn't know what to say. He was, actually, for the first time in his life, frightened down to the marrow. Even when he'd been strapped in the orphanages, or beaten in the reformatories, or ganged in jail, he had never really known fear. It wasn't in him to understand that kind. But here, in this strange matrix of imponderables, with a brutal bellowing of shuffling autochthones filling the air, just beyond the fogged windows, he was paralyzed with fear. He could not speak, did not know what he could ask for, did not know what he could have, but knew he could have anything just for the asking, just for the buying. That's what this shop was here for. The old man seemed to understand his problem. He stood up and patted the young man on the shoulder. "Well, truth and advertising, young feller. We're just what the sign says, a shop of wonders. Your heart's desire is in here somewhere. Just have to figure out what it is. You only get one chance, you know. Purchase is limited one to a customer." He seemed to about say something more, but caught himself as his mouth opened. He looked at the young man a good deal more closely, and lines of worry appeared in his forehead. When he spoke again, there was an appreciable coolness in his manner, more businesslike, infinitely less friendly and playful, a bit more menacing. "All sorts of items," he said. "Complete sets of books listed in the Index Librarium Prohibitorium, including Bergson's El Evolutionary Critias, Cloak of Invisibility. Just got in a fresh supply of black cobra blood from the Dinka. Best black cobra blood on the market, you know. Southern Sudanese, just smeared some on the house posts of your enemies. 100% guaranteed to produce incredible anguish and death. Glow filters, anti-gravitation discs, dildos, pills you can drop in your gas tank. Just add water and it makes pure octane. Just name it, we got it." For the first time, the young man spoke. "When I leave here, will this shop vanish the way they do in the stories?" "I'm afraid so, yes." "Why do they always do that?" The old man sighed. "You know, you're the first one to have ever asked me that." But he didn't answer the question. He walked towards a case filled with small objects. "Hey, come on over here. Maybe we have something in here to suit your fancy." The young man scratched at his chest where his shirt lay open minus a button. He scratched a bug bite. It was an angry red welt. He walked to the showcase and looked in. Eyes of newts, toes of frogs, other things. They stood silently on opposite sides of the case for a few minutes. Finally, in a strong young voice, the old man said, "Okay, bud, what's your heart's desire?" The young man did not look up. "Power," he said. "What kind of power?" "I want people to do what I want them to do." "That's easy enough." The old man reached into the case and brought out a black velvet pad on which lay a group of stones. They seemed to glisten and scintillate as though encrusted with dendrite. "Power stones," the old man said, "to make others do your bidding. $2 a shot." The young man looked up. "Why so cheap?" The old man shrugged. He gave a little laugh that was no laugh at all. "Cheapest things in the universe, $2 each is a good price." The young man reached for an octagonal-shaped stone. The old man stopped him with a word. "No!" The young man pulled back his hand. The old man picked up another one, diamond-shaped. "Here, this one." "What's wrong with the other one?" "Wouldn't have served your need. Take my word for it, this is the one you want. $2 to steal it twice the price." The young man took it from him. It was warm to the touch. There was his fist around it. The heat grew in his palm. He opened his hand and stared down at the glowing rock. "How do I use it?" "Just carry it with you. Heat it in your hand from time to time. It'll do the rest." The young man fished around in his jeans pocket, brought up 2 moist and wrinkled dollar bills. He gave them to the old man. The old man took the bills, walked back to the area where the rocking chair sat under the beaded lamp, and reached into an open drawer. He brought out a ledger and a quill pen. "I'll just enter the transaction," he said. He brought the ledger over to the showcase, laid it down, opened it, and wrote a few words on the first empty line. He looked up from the ledger. The young man didn't like the look at all. "I'll need a tear," the old man said. "A tear." "A tear?" "Yes, a tear. Not blood. Beg pardon?" "Sign these things in blood. Isn't that supposed to be the way of it?" "Just a tear, thank you." "And how do I do that?" "No problem." The young man suddenly felt his eyes well up with tears. One rolled down his face, hung from his chin for a moment, and then dropped on a glass of the showcase. "Very good," the old man said, and dipped the quill in the tear. He wrote a few more words. He closed the ledger slowly and looked at the young man. "That's it. Anything else?" In fact, it was a dismissal. The young man paused a moment as if trying to brazen out the incident, but the old man quite clearly did not want him in the shop any longer. He turned toward the door. It was a clear afternoon out there. "You wrote down my name, didn't you?" "Goodbye." Then again. "How did you know my name?" "I didn't send the name." "Goodbye." The young man got a nasty look on his face and seemed about to say something. He clutched the power stone in his hand and waited for it to work, but he knew it wouldn't work on the shopkeeper. He had once bought a revolver from a pawnbroker, and the hawk shop owner had sold him bullets in a sealed cartridge carton with a band around it. Shopkeepers always took precautions so the merchandise wouldn't be turned against them. The young man walked towards the front door. He had only taken 3 steps before he was there, but it had been such a long walk to reach the old man. He put his hand on the knob, crescent moon, and opened the door. He turned to look back at the old man, but the old man was gone. The light of the beaded lamp was no longer shone. It was all darkness back there, and the swirling vortex of white mist where he had last seen the old man standing. "I've read stories about this kind of place," he said defiantly to nothingness. There was no answer from the misty vortex. "Nobody ever wrote one about who runs a place like this. Why do you sell stuff like this so cheap? What's in it for you? Why do you keep coming and going like that? Who do you work for? What's in it for you?" There was a final whisper of dismissal. "Goodbye." He stepped through the door, closed it behind him, and started away. He took 3 steps as he had inside the shop and turned around, thinking better of his purchase. Where it had been, there was a blank wall between 2 boarded-up entranceways. As promised, Shop of Wonders, in which the filthy young man with the unsavory manner had purchased his heart's desire, had vanished. He stabilized his atoms and assumed his normal form. Not an old man, nor was he a swirling vortex of white mist, nor was he a beautiful woman or robot or Sonos of the Gauls. He was himself, a young man, perhaps no older than the young man to whom he had sold the Power Stone. The thin disk had been slid between the atoms of the femur of his left leg, had 1,011 growth rings on it. He was a young man, only 1,011 years old. The shop solidified around him. Its outer walls were gone. He was back at Rebel Point. The world outside was ashes and darkness. The stasis field held the shop in light, but though he was safe from the infinite dark mass pressed against its walls, its potency could still be felt. Pressed against the field, incredible devouring power exerting unceasing pressure. Outside the shop, it was all sky. No land surface, no horizon, sky, empty space, devoid of life, black, terrible, and cold. Ashes and darkness. He ran his hands wearily through his thick hair and thought of Anna. The time he had spent with the shop just off Just Shide Avenue could be quantified as 35 minutes. Subjectively, but he had been gone only a tick in the objectified chronology of Rebel Point. What he had done suddenly flooded in on him. He was, all at once, as terrified as a child who had broken his mother's best china figurine. He knew what he had done wrong. It wasn't simply wrong, it had been personally destructive. But there were times when he could not help himself. It had now put Anna in jeopardy as well as himself, but he could not fully regret it. He knew he would do it again if the moment would be. Despite the job he had to do, despite the purpose that drove him obsessively, there were times when he could not help himself. He was, after all, an artist. He stood there among the atoms of stock he had been given to sell, and he thought about his art. In the face of what he had done and what it meant for Anna, he felt vain and foolish. Headstrong, destructive. He turned and turned, looking for an answer to his actions, but everything in the shop spoke reproach. He remembered one special manifestation of his art that he had thought personified what he had to say. In the glass square, having resembled himself in the shape of a silver tetrahedron, radiating light in waves of chromatic brilliance, sending the light through random phases of color and bursts and washes without once repeating the sequence. No one had paid any attention. But he had stayed there for a very long time, and finally, when it was a totality and he was done, and the time for that particular piece of art to be disassembled, and he reformed himself, one of the supervisors had solidified in front of him and had asked, "What was the name of that?" And he said, "Integrity," and the supervisor had looked at him without speaking. Then he had vanished. The gentle murmuring of the colors could still be heard, faintly dissipating. He thought about that despicable young man with the Power Stone. He was so anti-art, so anti-life. No, he would not think about it. They might not know. They couldn't be everywhere. They couldn't know everything. They had too much to supervise. Too much to worry about. They would not discover what he had done. That was over, done, finished. He didn't want to think about it. It had made him cold and dead inside to think about it. He wanted to think of Anna, to think of the time when she would be with him again. He wanted to see Anna, to reaffirm his purpose to sublimate his need to create, to force the artist to sleep so the man could do what he had to do. He gathered muons to himself, concentrating them in the fingertips of his right hand, and made a sign in the empty air of the shop. The air ran and bubbled like lava, and a communication frame was created. He looked into it and said, "This is Lane. I'd like a pass to go to the vaults." A group of light in the upper left quadrant of the communication frame pulsed. "Aren't you on service at this time, friend Lane?" Lane intimated he was. "I just returned from my duty period." He knew the discrepancy would be noted. It pulsed. "There seems to be an imbalance. Your pass is, of course, granted. However, this break in your schedule will count against your quota." Lane said he understood that would certainly have to be the case. He was getting a trifle annoyed. He was, after all, a human being, and this was, after all, only a logging device to which he was speaking. He wanted to get to Anna as quickly as possible, had to see her, actually see her, as quickly as possible. The blip pulsed. This will be logged. Then log it, Lane said angrily. Without rancor, the lower right quadrant of the frame strobed validation of the past. Lane made another sign in the air, and the communication of the frame wavered and scintillated and vanished. Lane took a moment, still trembling with fear. Then he disassembled his atoms, and save for momentary water equality to the air in the shop, he was gone, and the shop was empty. Empty, with the silent, voracious pressure of the infinite dark mass steadily pressing against it. He could not entirely divorce himself from his sense of duty, no matter what had happened, what he had done back there during work time, no matter how much he had hungered to see Anna. And so he paused in transit and reformed in the supply section. Beyond the frame in that place he could see men and women working with photons, quarks, and muons to create the supplies the shop used to stock: glass beads and trinkets. The communication frame greeted him politely and had temerity to inquire why he wasn't out on work time. "I need restock. Do you want to take my order or lecture me on attendance?" "What do you need?" the blip pulsed. "Stock is low on Omnicrons, healing ointments, and hula hoops. I need 7 league boots in sizes 10 to 13 AAA, 3 Succubi, a gross of Beethoven cubes, and a dozen pair of the eyeglasses that see through solid matter. And have you gotten those universal college entrance exam answers back in stock yet?" The blip pulsed. "No, I'm sorry, friend Lane, not yet. But we do have the original Shakespeare's first folios and a large supply of original copies of Cotton Mather's Wonders of the Invisible World." He placed his order and vanished. He reformed in the glass square. All around him, Rebel Point flickered with light. The world, what was left of the world, maintained flickering against the infinite dark mass all around, beyond the perimeter. He took enormous energy to maintain the bubble of Rebel Point against the pressure from outside. It flickered, but it continued to exist. And beyond the silver bubble, ashes and darkness. Here at Rebel Point, at the end of time, and the imminent end of space, where entropy was programming the heat death of the universe, only 10,000 humans remained to mark the place where life and intelligence and dreams of empire had lived. In the centers that ring the glass square, the on-duty supervisors manipulated energy to keep the barriers solid against the infinite dark mass. And he had jeopardized all this with a moment's self-indulgence. What power had the loathsome young man in the shop already possessed to make friend Lane throw all this and Anna into jeopardy? He shivered, knowing it was not yet finished, not by any possible wish or hope, and he suddenly had the chill feeling that this might be the last time he saw Anna. He hurried to the vaults. Anna was there, behind glass. The Erg gauge was not even 1/4 filled. He stared at it for the longest time, trying to wish it full. The red line pressed against the very top of the counter, but it was non-manipulable. It remained less than 1/4 filled. He looked in at Anna, sleeping. He could not detect the rise and fall of her chest, but she was only sleeping. She'd been sleeping for 300 years. He stared in at her, waiting for her to realize he was there, to open her eyes and smile with a wondrous mouth too large to be called correct for her slim face. But she only slept, and though he tried to bring back the exact sound of her voice, he only heard words, conversation between himself and the empty places of his memory. "How long will your new piece take?" "Take a week." "I'll miss you. Come and see me." "Not this time, please, Lane. I won't be in pain." "Yes, but you look as if you're in pain. I can't bear it. I have to create, Anna. You know I understand, but it hurts me to see you." They have to see. They need to remember what it was like to be just human beings, not dogs. Fire and sleep will be my best work. They won't be able to reject it or ignore it. But you burn. Sleeping, here at Rebel Point, the last 1,000 and 10,000 humans had survived the age and slept in their vaults, waiting for those who loved them to buy their release from induced catalepsy. Here at Rebel Point, the surviving 10,000 had taken their stand against the moment when the last planet fell into the last sun, and the last sun was swallowed by the infinite dark mass. Here at Rebel Point, where everything came to an end until the universe could be reborn and begin again in stately cavalcade towards nothingness, The 10,000 had rescued a piece of the space-time substance and made it a world of survival. They had taken the energy of entropy itself, the heat that flows during the thermodynamic process. The heat entropy provides a criteria for spontaneous chemical changes and thus chemical equilibrium. The energy that still exists but is lost for the purpose of doing work. Entropic heat generated in quantifiable time, a piece of a second, a chunk of a minute, a slice of an hour, and they used it to maintain their bit of a world. Rubble Point, against the voracious appetite of the mad conqueror, entropy, eating everything till it swallowed itself, leaving nothing but the infinite dark mass that would inevitably explode from its own engorgement of time and space. They had used what they could steal from the past to maintain their world. But each one of the 9,000 who lived and survived in the world of Rubble Point used a carefully calculated amount of anti-entropic energy, gauged in ergs, of course, and there was X amount allocated simply to maintain Rubble Point's existence against the pull of the infinite dark mass. Those who had been unfortunate enough to be placed in the vaults, who awakened only when there was sufficient anti-entropic energy available for their maintenance, could do no other than wait. Wait. For energy to be brought forward to the end of time from all of the past that still lived in the Megaflood. Wait. For those who had the stake in the revival to earn their freedom. Wait. For loved ones to journey into the dangerous past to steal minutes, hours, days. Wait. For the anti-entropic heat energy to be generated by pivotal events that the 9,000 created in the past, events programmed by those who danced their dance here at Rubble Point at the end of time. Anna slept, waited, and the erg counter was less than 1/4 filled. He stood before the vault, staring in at her sleeping features. Sleep more than merely sleep, endless if he could not trade worthless trinkets for vital energy. Power Stone, for instance, a trinket. Child's plaything here at Rubble Point, but to a young man whose presence was codified as March 21st, 1967, heart's desire. The 10,000 bartered at the very best rate of interest. Caveat emptor. Traded toys for time. Time against the onrush is nothing. Time is heat energy. Time is a weapon. The only weapon that could halt the mad conqueror, entropy. What was it the young man had said? What's in it for you? Everything. Survival, existence, life, being, everything. Purchasable only in the Shop of Wonders. Should be a long time coming out, said a voice beside him. Lane heard the voice, but was too overcome to the sight of Anna, too mortified by what he had done, to sink in his own thoughts of the past, the present, the hopelessness of a future without her to comprehend what had been said. He looked the wrong way, then he looked to the left and saw the old woman. She had obviously chosen to remain an old woman, had not bothered reassembling herself into a younger body. I beg your pardon, he said. I see your counter's way down, the old woman said, moving closer to the erg counter and scrutinizing it very carefully. My son's in the next vault. I come here every chance I get. I know he can't hear me, but I come and stand and talk to him. I tell him it won't be much longer. Lena looked around at the next vault. The erg counter was only a hair below full. How long had this old woman been working to buy her son's freedom? He looked 5,000 years old. All he needs is one little boost and I can get him out, he said. There's a tone beneath the tone in her voice. You know, such a little boost wouldn't make much difference to you, and your lady. She has such a long way to go. He knew what she wanted. She hung around the vaults night and day, beggars at times. Leave me alone, he said, turning back to Anna's lovely sleeping face. You wouldn't keep a mother from her only son, would you? I can see what a good person you are, how much you love your lady. Get away from me, you thug! He screamed. The old woman snarled something obscene and her items began to shift. She reformed. She was younger than Lane and wickedly beautiful, with a hunger in her face that he knew could only be assuaged by the man in the vault. You'd better let me take that boost, she said, the hunger in her face distorting her beautiful features, or I'll make you sorry you ever lived. It was an idle malevolence, utterly without possibility of being implemented. They were immortal, replenishable, and volatile against assault. But she clearly had gone mad, and the sight of the naked lunacy terrified Lane. He had seen other examples of this imprisoned madness. They were all going crazy out here where time and space came to an end, and the pressure from outside could be felt as filth on the skin. He wondered if he had done that with that foul little young man in the shop was his most recent manifestation of insanity. He started to edge away from her. Goodbye, Anna. The beggar of time had blighted his moment with Anna. He hated her, but could do nothing to get even with her. And why should he bother? Her misery was far greater than any he could impose. Goodbye, Anna. Goodbye. We ran away from the screaming beggar, with her voice echoing foulness from down the crystal corridors. When he returned to the shop, one of the supervisors was waiting for him. "I've been looking through your ledger," the supervisor said. Lane had no idea which one this was. It might have been Burrell or Keyes or even Carthord, with her atoms rearranged to form a blank mask without features. Your last trip produced some variations in the megaflow that could not be ignored. Why did you do it? Certainly couldn't have thought you'd get away with it. I read his mind. He was a filthy little scum. Nonetheless, don't yell at me. This isn't a game, friend Lane. This is survival. It's always survival, but not necessarily art. Oh, yes, I'd forgotten. You're still calling yourself an artist, aren't you? That's what I am. It's the correct word. The supervisor snickered. There were no features to the mask, so it was impossible to tell how much of a sneer accompanied the sound. Correct? Perhaps operable is what you mean. An artist who is himself the art. Standing in a public place and letting rain wash over you and calling it rebirth. Crawling through broken glass till your body is torn and calling it the eternal Apollon Dionysus conflict. I suppose that's art. I don't tell you how to supervise. Art criticism is as old as art. I rearrange the universe. That is the nature of my art. No, friend Lane, we all rearrange the universe. What's left of it, the 10,000 of us here at the end of time. That is the nature of survival. My personal universe, then, I rearrange that. The supervisor picked up the ledger, but you may not rearrange it for the rest of us. We are all precariously balanced. We each pay our way. There's no room for self-indulgence. No room for freedom, you mean. There's no freedom in oblivion. The supervisor shoved the ledger towards Lane. These gave us our freedom. The ledger was filled page after page. Deals, sales, time bought with toys. The ability to mold a bear out of clay. The artistic eye and the basis of god worship sold to a nameless Australopithecine in South Africa. A way of seeing that turned a pointed stick used for scratching the earth into the first spear. Sold to a bright-eyed Neanderthal in Pleistocene Prussia. The ultimate weapon, gunpowder, sold to a Mandarin warlord in Chocotine village. Godsight sold to Joan of Arc. The concept of the assembly line sold to Henry Ford. Page after page, line after filled line, each one signed with a smeared name or a literate mark of identification. Signed as if the quill had been dipped in some watery, vital fluid more binding than blood. Some fluid that might serve as an energy conductor. Michelangelo, Anaxagoras, Socrates, Pasteur, Millais, Freud, Jefferson, Roger Williams, Confucius, names. Thousands of names that meant nothing against the fool of the infinite dark mass, save as moments of rearranged time that fought survival. Lane stared mumbly at the ledger and knew he had been wrong. The madness he had seen in the beggar of time in the corridor of the vault had possessed him, might soon possess them all. And then what point was there to survival? He wanted to say, I'm sorry, but the artist in him would not let the words emerge. He was stronger than the frail human being that contained the artistic spirit. He knew that there was only one thing that stood between humanity and the engorgement of the infinite dark mass, and it was not merely the frantic need to survive. There was survival, and then there was something finer, greater beyond survival. What was existence without art? Empty as the infinite dark mass that gnawed at the parameters of the rubber point. Your trips are ended, the supervisor said. It was said without feeling, but a tone crept through from behind the mask. I'll find another way of buying her freedom. She deserves to live. No doubt. I'll find another way. I think not, friend Lane. Your own account will be overdrawn because of this. He pointed to the last entry. The young man who bought the Power Stone for $2 in a measure of the past. I'm afraid there's a vault waiting for you. Lane wanted to beg him. Put me in the vault beside her. There's one about to be emptied right beside Anna. But the supervisor was already making a sign in the air. Lane's body began to bubble and scintillate, and it was gone. The shop was silent. Pressure from outside came through the walls. Cancerous darkness lapped at the stasis field. The supervisor sighed. It was never easy, but neither was survival. The grubby young man had taken only one more step when he heard the voice behind him. Hey, you! He turned. Shoppe had been gone a moment before, was back again. Appear, disappear, appear again. He stopped. The young woman with the long blonde hair was standing in the open doorway, motioning to him urgently. Hey, come on back. He sold you the wrong stone. He hesitated. The Power Stone was warm in his hand, unnaturally warm. It was beginning to be uncomfortable. He turned and walked back. She was extraordinarily beautiful. She held out an octagonal stone he'd wanted to select before the old man made him buy the diamond-shaped one. Better take this one, she said, smiling up at him with affection. Then a shadow came over her face. Her eyes seemed to darken as though she saw something disturbing. Then the smile was strong again. This is the one you want. Where's the old man? He was just minding the place for me, just a replacement. He's always making some kind of stupid mistake. I want our customers to be satisfied. Better take this one. He handed her the diamond-shaped stone, now almost unbearably hot. He took the octagonal one. It was cool and seemed to radiate power. Yes, this was the right one. I still want to know, what do you get out of this? Who are you? How do you make a living in a place like this? Just serving the community and the Commonwealth. That's the only reward we get. Of course, for good in your time. Her smile was fixed, implacable, eternally sincere. Anti-entropic. She held the diamond-shaped stone that would have killed him the first time he tried to use it, and she stared at him with her alabaster smile, and she knew what forces had been set in motion by his ownership of the stone that would make people do what he wanted them to do. And she thought of the 1,000 in her vault, now 1,001. She thought of friend Lane and his Anna, who would remain in their vault perhaps until the universe was reborn, because there was no one who had the spare time to buy them there. And she wanted the young man to go away and begin fulfilling the destiny that would reduce anti-entropic energy by hastening the onrush of infinite dark mass. Is there anything else, she asked? He wrote down my name. Yes, that's just company policy, so we have a record. Who sees that record? No one, Mr. Manson. That's just for our files. He wrote Charles. That's not right. It's Charlie. Can you change it? We won't have to. It's alright. He started to walk away. It's Charlie, don't forget. There was art, and there was survival. And sometimes they were mutually exclusive. The voice came from a swirling matrix of white mist that twisted inside the shop. You won't forget. And the door slammed. And the shop was gone. And the grubby young man turned once more onto Jamshide Avenue, and it was, in a moment, a part of the crowd, and a part of the infinite dark mass. With a grateful nod to the writings of Michael Moorcock. And that's Shoppe Keeper by Harlan Ellison. Brilliant flip on the magic shop myths, blending sci-fi time trades with raw human longing. Lane's struggle hits hard. Art versus necessity in a universe running out of time. If it sparked your brain like it does mine, smash like, subscribe for more Shatterday gems. Though tomorrow, God willing, we will have part 2 of the finale of Out of the Deeps inside our Hitchcock series. So stick around for that tomorrow. Or actually, come tomorrow for that. Stick around for the Dial Tones new song. What would you sell your time for? A lost love? Revenge? Power? Share if the twist got you. Let's see who else spots the Needful Things parallels. Stay curious out there. Good night.
The steel is cold against the palm. The silence screams before the storm. A shadow moves across the glass, watching the neon seconds pass. The wires pull, the tension hums. Wait for the thunder of the drums. We walk the street an hour ago. The same reflection in the window. Pressure rising in the vein. It's not the wind, it's not the rain. It's the friction of the day that never really goes away. Back to the edge where the fire begins. Turning the wheel while the world spins. No finish line, no open door. Just the echo of a silent roar. Round and round the city burns. We take the corner but the street just turns. Back to the edge. The jungle's gray, the lights are red. 1,000 words that go unsaid. The muscle cores, the instinct snaps. Walking through your own traps. You clear the room, you check the blind, but leave the peace of mind behind. The sun goes down, the neon wakes, replaying all the same mistakes. Pressure rising in the vein. It's not the wind, it's not the rain. Back to the edge where the begins. So while the world, no finish line, no open door, just the echo of a silent roar. Round and round the city burns. We take the corner, but the street just turns. Is this the start, or is this the end? The enemy becomes the friend. The hunter becomes the prey. The night becomes the day.